more economically active as farmers, as entrepreneurs, and also in the corporate world. We are there. We're here right now, Wala and I, and also our guest this morning. And one of the things that we have noted this year is from the PLE to the Senior 4 results to the Senior 6 results, women are doing, the girl child is doing something very good within the education bit. We have more women and more girls going into the education sector. But what happens after you're done with education? There's the workspace, right? We're training the girls, we're training the women on how to speak, on what to say and what not to say, but are we preparing them for the workspace? It's very, very important. Well, I am Rita Kanya, joined by Malak Villa Odera.
Yes, and today we have a special guest with us. We are joined by Miss Diana Angwach. She is a counsel, a lawyer here in the country. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you. Let's empower women today.
It's Women's Week. What else can we do?
Actually, Women's Month. Yeah. So, interesting. So let's talk about the marketplace. And I just want you to be as honest as possible. You are in a field that is male-dominated, pretty much, historically. I mean, you speak of a lawyer, I want to get a lawyer. You immediately get switched to, it should be a man. But now we have the women who are getting into the space. Just, if you can allow us, let's just tap into your experiences. How was it for you getting into the law space? Let's even talk about just getting into the law school, pretty much. How was it?
I think getting into law school was pretty easy because at our time there was 1.5. So that addition to extra from the men allowed a lot more women. So when I went to law school at the time, there were more women than men in law school. So it was pretty easy to get in. I think the question for us as we got into law school was, what would we do after law school? Would we get into legal practice? Would we run away into human rights, which seemed pretty easy? Because legal practice required that we went to court. And you know, as women, sometimes we can be extremely shy. We don't want to speak up. We don't want to be in front of the court. We don't want to be in front of judges. And so we decided to stay back. So in my time, you had so many people walking away from legal practice because it seemed easy. It seemed like something that you wanted to do at the time. But I think in the last couple of years, there have been changes. You have more women stepping up. And for me, I credit so many things. I credit the men who have sort of lifted the women in practice. I credit practices that the Law Society has been able to train people. I also credit places of work that have raised women. For example, in my firm, you have 2 women rising to partnership, and you spoke about it being a male-dominated practice. It is. In so many ways, it was for the longest period of time. If you wanted a lawyer, it was going to be a man. If you wanted someone to sort you out very fast, it was going to be a man.
Even today.
Yes. In a way,
it's changed somewhat, but
yeah.
Day by day we are seeing it change.
Yes, day by day we're seeing it change, and I think that's a good space for women now. You have more. If you walked to a courtroom today, you have more women actually litigating cases, and you have more women rising to the top. You have, I think in 2017, we saw the first 2 women in my farm rise to partnership. Something, and this is a big farm. It's not something that you have seen often, but you have more women entering the space and becoming bolder and becoming very firm on what they're doing.
Maybe fighting for your space. I'm sure at some point you had to prove your worth and just tell people, hey, I can handle this case. I am capable. How was it for you before people actually, started appreciating your skill and expertise? Because I know it's harder for a woman to prove herself, especially in your space. I won't even. I know it must have been hard, but just getting into that. How was it for you? For someone who is watching today, how would they pick from your experiences? You trying to fit in and prove your space in the law space.
It's been a tough journey in so many ways, because for any woman will tell you that you have to prove yourself. And you have to prove yourself twice as much as a man. When you speak and you challenge a point, they'll say, you're arguing. You're arguing because you're a woman.
Yeah.
When you speak up, that lady's too bold. What is she saying? When you have something to say, it's taken mostly in the negative than in the positive space. So I think for me it's been a challenge in the sense that I needed to be heard, I needed to get to the table, and that sometimes has made me come off as intimidating, as a bully, as so many different taglines that have been put to you, and yet all you want is to say, my voice needs to be heard. I have an opinion. I have something to say. I have something that's going to bring something to the table, and I need to be heard on this matter. And for me, that has been a walk, and I have managed to create spaces and platforms for women where I say, your voice matters. You need to be heard on this matter. You need to speak up, because in this world, people will tell you, keep down, pipe down, you're not tone down, you're a woman.
Be humble.
Be humble. Be humble.
Yeah. Be humble.
Be feminine. Yeah? Be feminine. Yeah. I was talking to a couple of friends yesterday who said that at some point you're forced to flirt at work to get something, to get done. Yeah. No one's going to ask a man to do that. No one's going to ask a man to do that. They expect it to be firm. But a woman has to tone and tune her voice such that she can be heard.
And smile a certain type of way. But as you talk about all the challenges that you have been through, there are also a number of challenges that so many women are going through, and maybe they're not prepared for it. Maybe no one has even told them, you know, right now you have a sister, as you're watching, your sister is maybe just about to finish with university, and you're telling her, yeah, go, make sure you get the job, you can't sit at home. But no one is telling her that there'll be a man who'll try and maybe try to hug you every single day as you try and ask him to do something. And we've seen movements that are like the Me Too movement, asking women to speak up, Time's Up, asking women to speak up, that there are these things that are happening in the workplace that you as a woman need to be prepared for. So how do you prepare a woman for the workspace? What should she be looking at and saying, when I start working, this might happen to me, this might happen to me, this might happen to me?
Interesting that you say that, because yesterday someone asked me, I'm going to work in this space, what should I watch out for? And I told her, don't take everything that you see at face value. Know that people are different. Know that you are a girl and you're going to be more vulnerable. This is a male-dominated area. So one, watch out how you speak and how you communicate. You know, we have so many silent things that we do that can be misinterpreted. I work for someone who once told me, during the meeting, I kept rubbing my hair or doing those different things that we keep doing without thinking. And sometimes it's something that we do without noticing because it has become a habit. So those little silent things that we do speak volumes. They say different things. And this is the workspace, and we have to learn to temper ourselves. How I speak to a friend is not going to be the same way I speak at work. I'll tell them, let your voice be firm. Let your voice be firm on certain things. Don't keep reducing your tone when someone is challenging you. Don't reduce your tone and say, if you have made your point, make your point. And also create bonds when you come to work. Many women sometimes shy away from women because it proves competition. But you need to create that support system at work that is going to help you. That support system where you can say, at the end of the day, if I'm called into a space that I feel uncomfortable about, who can I call? Can I call Rita and say, Rita, check on me in 5 minutes? Rita, can you stay back with me if you're staying back with me? You need to create certain mechanisms, but also if you can, and in as much as you can, push for policies and programs at your workplace that will favor you. Women, I guess, shy away from places that seem to be hard, but we've got to step into these places and soften the ground enough for those who are coming after us to have a space. Yeah.
And you talk about one thing that maybe will help women who come after us is having a space. When you mention the fact that women shy away from women, women start to look at women as competition, and it continues to happen. Well, you get into a company, a man will see a man say, yo, what's up, bro? And you know, they even use their kind of language, and everyone seems to do their thing their way. But then there's the competition between women and women. I don't know if you have heard of it, if you have seen it.
That's a tough space. That's a tough space. And you know, we try so many times to demystify that, but the truth is that we don't know where that's coming from at the end of the day. I think that one of the things that women need to learn is when your light shines and someone else's light shines, it doesn't dim yours. It does not dim yours. We've got to promote one another. We've got to lift each other up at the end of the day. This perhaps competition that we speak about is very interesting because it happens in so many places. The other day I read an article where someone was speaking about workplace envy and saying if you have never felt it, then you're lying. If you have never looked at someone and said, I deserve that sport better than you, then you're lying. But I think sometimes it's mainly overt for women, perhaps because we are more likely to express our emotions than men, while men will be more likely to contain it no matter how they feel. And we feel that society has placed us in a certain space where we look down on each other and we think there's a certain place we're supposed to be at. For example, it's obvious that in workspaces, when you walk into a room and they say take minutes, who are they more likely to pick?
Oh man, they'll definitely look at the woman and say, time for you to do your job.
If they bring in tea and it's a meeting, who will they look at to serve the tea?
Woman.
And it's interesting, it's not only men that do that. Even women bosses will turn. Because I think sometimes I may have been guilty of being in a room and we said, who needs to take minutes? And you'll automatically pick a woman. Why? Because her handwriting is better.
Oh, they need to see
attention
my handwriting.
to detail.
Not every woman is like that, by the way.
Yeah, not every woman is like that. We have women who are standing up and fighting for what we believe in at the end of the day. So I think that we've tried to demystify why women act like that towards different women. We may not have the proper definition of why, but I think that there needs to come a point where we recognize that just because your light is shining and mine shines too, it doesn't make yours an edema. Right. And we need to support one another, regardless of where we are, regardless of which field we are in, and raise one another.
You know, Diana, yesterday we were having a conversation about why women are less remunerated compared to their male counterparts, as much as they're doing the same job, and even the woman might be doing more, but earning less than the man. We have many people watching us today, maybe someone who is getting into an interview. How do you have that conversation at the interview table about what you're worth and articulating it and standing by your guard? How do you do that?
Women find it harder to negotiate their salary. Maybe because they feel sorry, maybe because we don't know our worth, maybe because we don't understand it. And I've read a couple of books which talk about that. It's probably the way we are brought up. We think that if I ask for too much, I'll be looked at as materialistic. If I speak about something that's beyond what I need, I'll be looked at as a gold digger. And yet when we come to the table, this is one of the tricks that someone told me when I had to get into the place, is one, explain what am I bringing to the table? How long am I expected to work? What is it that you require of me? Then I explain to you what I am offering. This is what I bring. This is how much I'm willing to contribute, and I think that this is my worth. We should never approach that question from a point of view where you give a lump sum figure. You have to justify it. Anyone in the legal space will tell you everything needs to be justified. So you have to tell yourself that as I walk into this space, what am I bringing to the table? How much is expected of me? How many hours am I expected to do this? And argue from that point of view. Argue from this is my worth. But also do a market search. I know a lot of people, not just women, who walk into interviews and you have not done a market search. For example, what does someone in the same role in another organization earn? Do your benchmarking before you open. And this for me is for generally more than women, is prepare for those spaces. But also women need to find their voice, and we need to create spaces for them to say, find your voice, be confident at what you do, speak up. I did something early on this week, and I was watching, and I wanted to make sure that women had as much slots as the men at the end of the day. And when the women stood up to speak, you could see the difference in confidence between the women and the men. And that, I don't know at some point why we act the way we do, but we need to get to a place where we find our voice and speak up, get heard, and be confident about what we do. Maybe we need to train them more. Maybe we need to create more spaces where we say, speak up, raise your voice, act a certain way. Perhaps that may be the solution in that case.
And as we talk about the workplace, we can't forget the home. because that's where it all starts from, right? As a woman, as a girl, the way we were maybe brought up and what they told us, because there could be a mother out there who was saying, maybe I'd want my daughter to be more confident, but one, how is she raising her child? Because there's that. Are you letting her speak? Are you not letting her speak? So do you think that sometimes the confidence that a woman exudes later on in life is based on how she's been raised?
Of course, in many ways, but not just the mother, it's the father. It's the father. I've got a comment before when I was asked, why are you so confident? Was your father available? Was he more available?
Was Daddy available?
Daddy was very available.
Okay.
Daddy was very
So for the person who asked the question actually thought that you didn't have a father figure.
They actually wondered about my particular relationship with my father. And they were saying, perhaps I watched my father so much that I became that. But also, I think for me, I had the advantage growing up with so many boys, such that my parents treated us whatever the boys could do, the girls could do. So at the end of the day, if you climb through windows, you all climb through windows together. If you climb trees, we all climb trees together. If we got beaten, we got beaten the same way.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that you say that, because my upbringing said so much about the way I was brought up. I was not treated differently from the boys. And I remember when I was younger, one time my mother made a comment and said, she's just like the boys. So I thought, well, she's just like the boys, I might as well act like one. A boy. So the boys never shied away from what they did. And because I never saw less, I aimed for more. But also, it's different when you get into workspaces and people remind you you're a girl. It's different when you get into space and people say, turn down a bit, you're a girl. I've been asked much further, because I had access to so many things growing up, especially a car, and people would say, turn down. Turn down, you might not settle down much faster. Turn down, because they want you to tone down on your ambition. But in answer to your question, for me, it's a lot to do with how we are raised and presence of both parents, and also activeness of both parents in your life.
It's interesting, especially when you talk about upbringing, because even how most parents, have conversations with their daughters. They tell them, your toy needs to be this pink or dollies, or that, but for the boy it's gonna be a tractor, some hard things, so should those conversations change? And also, let's just touch on mentorship, where mentorship begins from that family level. What's the role of the mother, and what line should they not cross, lest they change maybe the perception of their daughters towards the workspace?
It's difficult to say what parents should and shouldn't do in terms of giving toys, because children are different, and I think that parents need to recognize that children are different, and because they're different things stimulate them. Different things will bring out strength in them. Your children have different strengths and they have different weaknesses.
Right.
So what worked on the firstborn may not work on the second, may not work on the third. So I think that parents need to recognize that what I am doing with my firstborn and secondborn needs to shift, because children come out differently. And in terms of mentorship, I think your parents are the very first people that you look at and you have the view of the world. So they have the mandate to set a pace for you in so many ways, and they need to model, in as much as possible, they need to model what kind of human being do I want to be, what kind of, when I grow up, and this is a question that many parents ask children, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you may not have that answer, but I have found that so many times when we give that answer, when I was growing up, it was obvious. I wanted to be a doctor, I wanted to be a pilot, I wanted to be the vice president, I wanted to be the first lady. But the commonality in everything that I wanted to be was a person of influence. And in that answer that many children give you, I think you should search for what is the commonality there. what is it that they are actually saying? And that for me helps identify their gift. And when you can identify that gift, nurture it. You have very many opportunities to nurture this gift. You have very many spaces that have been created to nurture this gift. So nurture that gift in so many ways. But also, parenting when we were growing up was not just two people or one person. You were brought up by a community. Right. And that for me is also even in the workspaces, that you not know everything. There are people who know better. So open up the networks, open up places that they can see from someone different and say, I admire that. I want to be that. Open that when they begin to show a certain gift, perhaps connect them to somebody who has excelled in that area, who is working that area, that can nurture that gift in them, and then you'll have a different child.
Wow. Okay, now that's a lot of like mentorship that goes into it. You don't just wake up and say, this is what I want to be, and then go ahead. There's so many people that have already walked that journey. But I might just ask you, from the weekend, Winnie Byanyuma tweeted something, and she put an image with her tweet, talking about all the obstacles that women have to go through as they go through that workspace. And on one side, there were gentlemen at the start of a racing point. The path was very clear for them. But right in front of the women who are going to be a part of that same race, there was the fridge, the cooker, the drying line there, the ironing board, all those things that they have to go through. Do you think that sometimes there are a number of obstacles besides just knowing what you have to do, but the family side of things? When they say, can you have the career and also have the family? A question that keeps coming up every single day.
But I think that question is interesting because it's an assumption that women are actually going to choose family. It's an assumption that we're going to choose children.
Yes.
It's an assumption that we're going to choose, that we are supposed to. Society has said we are supposed to choose marriage. We're supposed to choose family. What happens to a woman who chooses career? Should she be looked down upon? What happens to someone who chooses to do something different and says, I never want to have children? Do you pin the person down?
No.
No, you don't. Do women have a lot to juggle? Yes, they do. They do have a lot to juggle. And I think that's where the male perspective, or especially if you're in family, is where the man needs to come in and help. Because at the end of the day, we're all going to work. At the end of the day, we are all bringing money to the table. Should I say now the man should do this, the woman should do this? No, no, no. I think that the couple also needs to agree on how you can lighten the burden. The woman is a helper, yes, but it is the man, it has to be a partnership at the end of the day, where the man actually comes to the table and says, I want to build my family. What will that take to lessen the burden on my wife? What will that take to remove the fridge out of her way? What will that take to remove the cleaning out of her way, such that even in his lane there is something? But also that doesn't negate the fact that men also still have things. It's not really a clear path. I saw that picture. It has done its rounds.
Oh, it has.
But it's not necessarily a clear path. I think it's telling of what a woman has to overcome, both in the workspace and at home. But I think that this is where men have got to step up in so many ways and say, how can I partner with her to make her load lighter and for us to be successful?
It's a partnership.
Yes.
You know, Diana, as we come to a close, I want you to speak to the importance of work ethic and its relation to climbing the career ladder. What that means. Because the notion out here, let's be real, many women get into the corporate space thinking that I will maybe do this to get up the career ladder. How do we change that notion? Because now it's become a thing. Every man now generalizes that, hey, that woman is the CEO because she did this, which is not authentic. Just speak to that and
Should
speak to the women.
Did this is?
Are you sure you want to know what that is?
She slept her way up, you know, which is unfortunate, and they generalize it. So speak to work ethic and just getting up in the career space.
I think that starts from a woman's value system, and a woman's worth at the end of the day. I will not use my sexuality to get up because I value myself, because I know who I am, because I know what I'm capable of at the end of the day. that question may be how people view, which at the end of the day, how people view you is something you're not going to take away. How you carry yourself is another thing. Is there, these things are not made up from thin air. It means it probably has happened somewhere.
Some fire and some smoke.
Exactly. So I think from the way women should, I think that's something we should train much younger people to know, that one, you're valuable. You are worth much more than what the world is selling you. You are intelligent, you are beautiful, and it's okay. It's okay to use your brain to climb up. Hold yourself as a woman of dignity. But also to say that about the workspace is when you're confronted, and you will be confronted with these scenarios. At some point, every woman will be confronted with this scenario. It's not something you're going to circumvent. It's not something you're going to move away from. When you are confronted with this, how you react, how you respond will be very telling of you. It will be telling of how much you value yourself. It will be telling of your worth. It will be telling of everything that you want to achieve. Will you change the system's mindset? No, you're not going to change them. But perhaps we can create policies for women who have been sexually harassed to have a voice and speak, and let there be mechanisms that work. Not just policies that are set down. Let there be mechanisms that work. That if I face this today, I know I can walk up to the HR, I know, and I will not be penalized. I know I can do something I can walk up to somebody and speak up, and I won't be fired, you know?
Right.
Let there be mechanisms. And I think that every woman, you have a fighting chance. You do have a fighting chance. You start out on a clean slate. You start out with your value system. Maintain it. Maintain it. You're already stacked against the system. You're stacked against the system. So everyone who has gone before you says, expected, you're a woman. So that's why I say when it happens, know how to respond. But you will not change people's mindsets. But the world can change. It can change through policies. It can change through practices, but it will also change if men start to come on board and say, how can we protect our daughters, our women?
Interesting. Interesting.
A lot has been learned this morning. I think one of them, I'm just like nodding my head. But as we close, I know that there's the women's breakfast on Friday.
Yes.
If you could just tell us about that, because that's a place where mentorship is going to happen. Yeah.
Okay, so I love to create platforms for women to speak and find their voice, because I find that so many women do not have their voice at the end of the day. And so I created a platform where I decided that I wanted to tackle different spaces. And as we came to this particular Women's Day, I said women in the workplace need a voice. There are many challenges that they face that are unique to women, that are unique to their particular sector. But you find that there is no outlet. There's no outlet, there's no one they can talk to. You get into a system and you're stuck. You have no support system. So if we can come together as career women and say, where can we make a difference? What is it that you're facing that's unique to you as a woman? And so this platform for us is to discuss candidly, to hear from someone who has gone before us, that where did you make the mistakes? Show us the path. Where did you make the mistakes? How do you overcome them? Where did you succeed? Why did you succeed? And so that we can create a more integral people of integrity as they go into workplace. Because I think that it's one of the things that we're struggling with. When you enter a system, how do you manage to keep your integrity through the process?
Right.
Okay.
As we come to a close, there's a question coming in. Tools for career growth.
Tools
for career growth. For the women especially, do you have to go back to school? Do you have to up your game in terms of your work ethic? What should women do? Is it consistency? What exactly is it? The recipe for career growth, climbing up the ladder.
Of course,
not stagnating.
Of course, you need to arm yourself with papers. You're not going to walk into a space and say, I didn't complete school, but I think I can make a good CEO. And because someone has succeeded, they left college and they succeeded, doesn't mean that it's going to happen for you. So of course you need to upskill yourself, and also never stop upskilling yourself. It's something my father continuously says to me every time, that learning never stops. So continue upskilling yourself. I sit down sometimes and look and say, there's an online course. How can I continue to upskill upskill myself. And I've found, and this is one of the things that someone encouraged me to do, because there are going to be various opportunities that are going to come. There are going to be various opportunities. You may have studied law, but you can add on something else. You can add on marketing. You can add on research. You can add on those different things, because those opportunities are going to come your way, and you will need to have a certain skill to achieve that. More than that, for me also as women, is that we need to create platforms for women where you are promoting women. You have policies, you have positions where you're saying, how can I help you through certain loops. If I had more women in the workplace saying, I'm going to create spaces where women speak to certain things, perhaps we'd be seeing more women at the forefront. I'm going to create spaces where women can talk about certain things. Perhaps we'll have more women at the forefront. I think there are many opportunities just besides skilling for people to climb the ladder. You have to go more than what you have studied. You have to expand your reach, expand your networks also, and networking is such a big thing. Expand your networks. Who you know will determine how much you have sometimes. Because if I met Rita today, Rita, the next time Rita meets me, if I'm impressed with her, she'll introduce me to somebody else.
Right.
I will climb the ladder. Why? She'll make a recommendation to somebody else, and that person will allow me to open a door, to walk into another door. That's different. So networking is important, and it's something that women sometimes shy away from, and that for me is very key in how much you grow.
Hard work.
Yes.
Hard work
Goes without saying. Hard work goes without, I think comes without saying. You need to work hard. And sometimes, I guess, being millennials, we are so keen on 8 to 5.
Yeah.
We want it to end at that point.
And it's done.
I mean, that's what I signed up for. That is what I signed up for. But we need to go to a space where you're going to say some days it's going to come more than the others, and I'm going to have a good attitude towards it. I'm going to have a good attitude towards this. So work hard as a woman. Don't let anybody, and then of course have ambition. I think that people we like to settle. If you need to dream more, you need to dream more and say, what is it? Do my dreams give me a headache, like somebody said? When I think about my dreams, do I think, is that achievable? If you are not afraid, what could you do?
Wow. Yeah. I think we can stop it at that.
That's something you need to
That's
ask
a high.
yourself. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dana, for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
I think women in the workspace, for those that are watching, I hope if you were at work, did you pull someone close by and share what we were sharing with them? If at all you have learned something, share it with the other women. Be a mentor to someone.
Yes.
Share the link. Share the link. Please, don't be selfish. Share. It's as simple as that.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Diana Ngwech. I mean, we've learned quite a bit. She is a lawyer and a counsel here in the country. Thank you so much. Many thanks to you. Don't go too far. Morning at 10 TV still continues. By the way, the hashtag is Morning at 10 TV. Have you learned? Do you have more tips? Share them. We are on Facebook, YouTube. We are on Twitter, across all social media platforms, and we are open. We look at your views. Don't go too far. Morning at 10 TV still continues.
Are you dreaming of longer and thicker hair? Or of long and natural eyelashes? Try Placent Active Hair Growth products that are suitable for both natural and relaxed hair. Available at all the biggest pharmacies and beauty shops.
Play and win every 10 minutes. For every 1,000 you spend, it gives you one entry into the jackpot this Sunday.
On MTN, simply dial *165*33#. That's *165*33#.